Imagine the urgency that the spirit of the universe feels right now. It is calling to us, begging and pleading that we see what it sees and that we respond as it would respond. More than that, as the Apostle Paul put it, the Spirit is actually interceding. It is shaking and waking people up. It is stirring a new consciousness. It is on our side, the side of life and love and light. And if the Spirit is for us, who is against us? Many times since my first sermon here 3 years ago, I have told the story of how we got to this time and place, how the universe exploded into being 13 billion years ago, how the solar system formed out of molecular gas and dust 4.5 billion years ago. And then 500 million years later, on this lifeless rock, life miraculously sprang into being. How those first single cells organized then into ever more complex life forms, ever so slowly, so that after 3 billion years, reptiles finally emerged onto land. And how 5 times almost all life died out on Earth, and yet slowly came back after millions of years each time. And how the human mind evolved over just the past 200,000 years. And how just a blink of an eye ago, 25 centuries, a new awakening in philosophy and art and religion emerged, promoting an ethic of empathy and compassion, forgiveness, unconditional and universal love, the golden rule, values like justice, freedom, equality for all, based on the vision of the most evolved and wisest human consciousness, a vision of the true oneness of all life so that we could actually love our neighbor as ourself. And then yet another breakthrough happened. Societies began to organize themselves based on that wisdom. Not perfectly, but recognizably, democracies and republics emerged, and great social movements of reform moved those societies ever closer to the ideal. Some saw the spirit of the universe as a force or power flowing through all time, places, and beings. They saw how it worked toward building harmonious communities, whether in cells or human groups, that could provide the conditions for sustainable flourishing of life on Earth, not just for one species, but for the whole. Some called this force by the name God, and called the ideal world toward which the Spirit flowed the realm of God on Earth. They established institutions to help individuals evolve over the course of their lives toward a selflessness, beyond selfishness, towards selflessness, evolving into citizens who would serve the common good, who would lay down their lives out of love, who would guide their communities and nations wisely and virtuously, who would move steadily toward the most expansive wisdom that humanity had attained so that they could be entrusted with the well-being of all, and they could help society evolve toward the ideal of the sacred way of God's realm. And yet, at the same time, some did not evolve along that path and could not extend compassion and empathy beyond their own tribe or believe in universal equality. They could not even conceive of equity and oneness beyond their racial group. They believed that the highest good was the pursuit of self-interest and the individual's acquisition of power and wealth, regardless of the cost of destruction or diminishment to others. And counterculture, this counterculture became dominant. And its wars and its toxic wastes and its oppressive abuses of the poor and vulnerable brought the entire planet to the edge of extinction, undoing all that the spirit of the universe had worked toward over 4.5 billion years. Look at this through the spirit's eyes. Peer down at this poor, precious, rapidly dying planet, and let your vision focus in on one little village in a remote, quiet corner of one devolving democracy. See the worry, grief, and longing in their hearts. See their love of nature and of one another. See their cherished ideals. See how fervently they are working to make their village and world fulfill the values that they know are essential to the survival and flourishing of life. Imagine how much the spirit of the universe wants to intercede and help them. The spirit knows that all its hope for the children being born right now rests on people like these who have the love of the sacred way in their hearts. The Spirit intercedes, and if God is for us, who is against us? The Apostle Paul answered that nothing in life or death can separate us from the love of God. And Jesus said that this love was the greatest power and law in the universe. So if you were the Spirit that created life on earth and evolved humanity toward oneness and the law of love, what would you do in this urgent crisis to help those who long to serve your cause? Wouldn't you help them find your higher power within them and within their beloved communities, giving them the wisdom, strength, and courage they need to build a movement powerful enough to change the world? If you were that spirit, wouldn't you help people find the spiritual tools, practices, and support they need to meet the crisis that they face? Look around you, and you will see that the Spirit is doing just this. The Spirit is interceding. And if God is for us, who is against us? The question is, how can we work with the Spirit to pull off the miracles, little and large, that life requires of us? I will address that in the next two teachings in this service. Meanwhile, the Spirit has moved through Mel Gertz to provide two beautiful insights in haiku form. Mel did not know what I would be talking about today. She just listened to her heart, and the Spirit led her to these messages. Her first haiku is a beautiful image of the way that the Spirit works as a gentle but inexorable force of light, reaching into the shadows of our world and touching down in the depths. So here is the first haiku. The sun moved into the woods and touched the trunks of the trees with sunrise. And here's Mel's second haiku, written many years ago when she was trying to find her way through a personal wilderness. It was a message that she needed at the time, and now we all need. Whether deep as the sea or high as the sky, the Spirit is everywhere. So let us worship together, continuing on with this service.